Hello everybody, this is Mr. McNair, and this is 7.2, Factoring by GCF. Now, when you're factoring something, factoring is almost like the opposite of distributing in or foiling out. When you're distributing into something, you multiply into it. Well, when we factor out the GCF, we're going to be dividing out. So, a couple steps. Step number one, you're going to find the GCF between the terms. In this problem, we have two terms, 2x squared and negative 4. Okay? Now, the GCF between those two is 2. All right? Next step. We're going to place the GCF on the outside of a set of parentheses and divide it out. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to go ahead and put a set of parentheses here. We took our GCF and we put it on the outside. And now we're going to take this 2 and divide it out of these two things. Okay? So, what is 2x squared when you divide out 2? Well, 2x squared, if you divide out the 2, all you'll be left with is x squared. Alright? Now, the reason that is because 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then you just have this x squared that we bring down. Now, of course, we don't have to put the 1 there because 1 times anything is itself. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing with the negative 4. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And there you go, that's your answer. Now, the next step that you'll do is just check your answer and make sure it's correct. So you could check it by multiplying back in there. 2 times x squared gives you 2x squared. 2 times negative 2 gives you negative 4. So we know that our answer is correct. Okay, let's do another one. This time we're going to factor the polynomial. This time we're going to do a trinomial. So let's look at our terms. This time we have 3 terms, 8x cubed, negative 4x squared, and negative 16x. Here the GCF between all 3 of those is 4x. Okay, because you want to take out between 8, negative 4, and negative 16. The biggest number that divides out of all of those is 4. And between x cubed, x squared, and x, the most variables that you could take from all of those is 1. Because remember, you want to take the same amount of variables from each of them. And this one only has 1 to give, so that's the most that we could take out of all of them. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and put our parentheses down and divide out the GCF. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. Here we had 3 x's and we took out 1, so that leaves us with 2 left, so that's 2x squared there. Negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1. And we had 2 x's and we took out 1, so we're going to just leave us with a negative 1x. And then here we're going to take negative 16x and divide out 4x, so that's going to leave us with negative 4. Okay, we had 1x and we took it out, so there's no x's left in this one. Okay, and there's our answer. Once again, you could take this and multiply back into your parentheses and make sure it works. Alright, so 4x times 2x squared is 8x cubed. 4x times x, that is, 4x times negative x, that is negative 4x squared. And 4x times negative 4, that's negative 16x. Alright, moving on. A lot of times when you have 2 terms and they're both negative, instead of taking out just the positive number, they might just take out a negative number. So for example, between negative 14 and negative 12, the GCF is 2. But because they're both negative terms, they might just go ahead and take out a negative 2. And then between the x and the x squared, the most variables you can take out of both is 1 of the x's. So when we divide this negative 2x out, negative 14 divided by negative 2, that's positive 7. We had 1x and we took it out, so we're not going to put an x there. And then negative 12 divided by negative 2 is positive 6. We had 2 x's, we took out 1 of them, so that leaves us with 1 left in there. And this is our answer. Alright, good. Let's try this next one. Here we have 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus 10. Well, if we look at the numbers, 3, 2, and negative 10, what's the GCF out of all 3 of those? Well, the GCF is 1. Alright, and out of x cubed, x squared, and negative, or x cubed and x squared, this one doesn't have a variable. What's the most amount of x's we could take out? Well, we can't take out any because, once again, negative 10 doesn't have a variable attachment. So all you'll be able to factor out is the 1. Well, because when you factor out a 1, it doesn't change, we're just going to write cannot be factored. Okay? All right, let's move on. Here we're going to factor out binomials. All right, what I would like you to think of this is here we have two terms, this term and this term. Now, what's in common between those two terms? Well, what's in common is this x plus 2. Both of these have an x plus 2. So we're going to factor both of these out. Okay, we're going to take out the x plus 2's. So if we take out the x plus 2, we're going to take it out, put it on the side here. And then when we take out the x plus 2, what's left on the inside? Well, we have a 5 and a positive 3x. So that'd become 5 plus 3x. Okay, and there's our answer. We factored out the x plus 2. What was left on the inside was 5 plus 3x. This is going to be the same thing in the bottom problem here, part B. Here, we have a b squared plus 1 on the inside and a b squared plus 1 on the inside here. Before you do this problem, I would suggest that you recognize that the coefficient on this parentheses is a 1. Okay? You need to put that in there. Please put that in there. So, still, though, we're going to factor out this b squared plus 1 out of both of them. So, when you factor out that b squared plus 1, what's left on the inside is a negative 2b and a positive 1. So we have negative 2b plus 1. And there you go. There's your answer on that one. B squared plus 1 times negative 2b plus 1. All right, let's try a couple more. Here, again, we have s plus 6 and an x plus 6. We're going to factor those out. So when we factor that out, you're going to have s plus 6 on the outside. And on the inside, we'll have 4s minus 5. That's what's left over, 4s minus 5. So there's our answer. And again, in this problem, I would put the 1 in there. And then we're going to factor out these 2x plus 3's. All right, so we're going to factor those out. Okay, so we'll take out that 2x plus 3. And what's left is this 7x plus 1. Okay? All right. Next, factoring by grouping. Now, factoring by grouping is actually going to combine a couple of the things that we've talked about today already. First, when you're factoring by grouping, the first thing you're going to do is actually group. You're going to group the first two and the last two. Now, after you have those grouped, you're pretty much going to forget about one of them for a little bit. And then you're going to factor out the GCF out of the first group. So between 6 and 8, the GCF between those two numbers is 2. Between b cubed and b squared, the GCF between those two variables is b squared. So we took out the 2b squared. What's left on the inside here would be 3b plus 4. And there we go. We factored the first group. Now we're going to factor the second group. Now, what's the GCF between 9b and 12? Well, the GCF there is a positive 3. And what's left on the inside? Well, if you divide out the 3 from the first term, you'll have a 3b. And divide out the 3 from the second term, you would have positive 4. Okay? So, now this problem actually looks exactly like we had in the previous problems, where you have binomials that are the same in both. So, we're going to take this, and we're going to factor out the 3b plus 4, just like we did in the previous problem. We're going to factor that out. Okay? So, if we factor out the 3b plus 4, and then what's left over is this 2b squared plus 3. Now, one thing I do want you to notice, again, is that these two parentheses are the same. If they're not the same, you have done something incorrect. Okay? Or they just can't be factored. Okay? So these need to be the same. All right? Exactly the same. Alright, let's go on to this last one. Again, we're going to factor by grouping. So since we're factoring by grouping, we're going to group the first two and group the last two. What factors out of this first set? Well, let's forget about the second set for now. What factors out of the first set is from the numbers 4 and 24. What factors out is a positive 4. And between r cubed and r, you can take out an r. So that leaves us with r squared plus 6. Okay, because 4 divided by 4 is 1. But remember, we don't have to have that 1 there. So, and 24 divided by 4 is 6. Alright, so there we go. We factored out that first set. Now, we're going to factor out this second set. Now, when you're doing factoring by grouping, you have to factor something out. Something has to come out. So out of this first set, or out of these two, the GCF is 1. So we need to factor out that 1. And what's left? Well, since we factor out a 1, everything in the parentheses is going to stay the same. Okay, so there that is. And once again, we're right back to where we were in the previous problems. Here we have two parentheses that are exactly the same, and we're going to factor them out. Okay, so we're left with r squared plus 6. We factored out of that. And what was left was this 4r plus 1. 4r plus 1. And there's our answer. Now, real quick, I do want to highlight the fact that it doesn't matter what order you put these two sets of parentheses in. If I change this parentheses and put it over here, it will still be the same answer. Okay, either one is fine. All right, great. Hopefully this has been helpful to you, and have a great day.